In our last video about cold calling objections, we talked about how to respond to one of the most common cold call objections, which is, I'm sorry, but I don't have time, I'm busy. And in today's video, we're going to talk about how to respond to another very common cold call objections, which is, I'm sorry, but I'm not interested. Are you ready? Let's go. When you first hear, I'm sorry, I'm not interested during a cold call, you might suddenly feel a little bit discouraged and even tempted to end the call quickly. But you shouldn't. No matter how it seems at first, this objection can actually be an opportunity to turn this situation around and engage in a meaningful conversation with your prospect that they will actually find very useful in the end. So here's how to approach this objection in a much better way. Ask for reasons. One of the most important things to remember when it comes to dealing with this I'm sorry but I'm not interested objection is that you shouldn't let your prospect go without even knowing the reason why they're not interested. If your prospect is telling you that they're not interested in your product, you need to dig deeper and ask them open-ended questions to understand their reasoning. And one way in which you can do that is to ask questions such as, oh, could you please share what specifically about our product doesn't meet your needs? Could you please share specifically why you're not interested? What specific features are you looking for that you feel our product doesn't have? How does our product compare to others you're considering so that you can actually get more information about their preferences? What could we do differently to better meet your needs? So on and so forth. Asking open-ended questions like this will not only give you opportunities to better understand your prospect, but it will also serve as kind of like a starting point for you to provide additional information about your product that might change their mind. Always try to reschedule for another appointment when a prospect tells you during a cold call that they're not interested. When this happens to you, when someone tells you, I'm not interested during a cold call, do not just give up and say, okay, I understand, I'm sorry to bother you, bye. But instead, try to arrange a follow-up call or appointment. You can even suggest checking back at a later time when their situation might change in the future or when your product can actually better meet their needs than the one they're currently using. This rescheduling approach shows that you're really committed to meeting their requirements and satisfying their needs, and it kind of keeps the door open for even future conversations. If it's not now, it's going to be later. Remember that. Third point, maybe the problem is you. The thing about the sorry, I'm not interested objection is that normally if you target your prospects well as an SDR or a BDR, there should be some level of interest towards your product. So if they are outright saying to you that they're not interested, it can also mean that your initial pitch or message didn't really resonate with them, or that you didn't really highlight well the benefits of your product, or that you just didn't really express yourself well. So if you hear this phrase, sorry, I'm not interested, very frequently, and you know that on paper your prospects should be interested in your product, well, then it might be time to reevaluate your pitch and adjust your strategy. Fourth point. Evaluate what's worth the persistence. There's a point in every single cold calling where you and even the prospect can both feel that this conversation is not going to go any further. And when that happens, you really need to know when to let go and just exit the conversation. The thing about being an SDR is that 80% of the cold outreach that you make doesn't really yield any visible results. So you really need to make sure that the 20% that actually does yield clear, visible results actually count. When a prospect is qualified and you know that your product would really fit their needs, it's really important to go for that opportunity and to nurture that opportunity as the best as you can. So even though at some point you might feel very tempted to just give up because you've tried so many times, it's really important that when it's a really good, well-qualified prospect that you know you could help with your product, you just keep going and try to approach it differently, or come up with a different pitch, or come up with a different strategy, and just not give up. So now that you know how to respond to the sorry, I'm not interested objection, make sure to watch this video next to know how to respond to I'm sorry but I'm busy objection.